Hey y'all, Mike with Cardboard Kingdom. Welcome back to another Disney Lorcana Market Update video. Today is Thursday, the 24th of October. I hope you all are doing well. I was out of town to start the week for work, so playing a little catch up here and getting back into the groove of things. Honestly, not much has really changed since I made a video last week in regards to a lot of the pricing and things like that. So not too much to catch up on, but I did want to mention a few things that have kind of caught my eye and that I'm looking at right now. So first and foremost, starting with the first chapter booster box case, they are available as low as 1,139 on TCG Player from a non-verified seller. It does look like the buyers are preferring to go the verified route with a sale of 1,200 here most recently yesterday, and then 1,150 prior to that. The lowest verified now is closing in on 1,400. And so, if you're willing to take the gamble, like Purple Shadow Gaming only had 94% customer satisfaction. That's pretty low, to be honest. And so I would definitely look into these sellers if you are buying the unverified route, but you can get a pretty decent chunk of savings as it relates to verified versus unverified for a first chapter case. I will point out that if we go over to eBay, as far as I can tell, this is the cheapest case on the market. It is second print for all of you second print or print wave enthusiast out there. It's second print. It's got the December label on it. And it is 1,395. It's the cheapest case on eBay for buy it now that I can tell. And so that's obviously a pretty big discrepancy from what we're seeing on TCG Player. Cases definitely getting a premium on eBay, where on TCG Player not as much. So just thought that was worth pointing out. A couple $100 different. Pretty interesting as it relates to the first chapter sealed case. Now, when we hop over to the sealed box, we are seeing that sales are coming in here today at $310 per box. I believe that was probably the lowest verified listing at the time. This Game Capital listing here, $310 a box. They sold two. It looks like Machado's Random Stuff has came in. They're a verified seller. They have two boxes available at essentially 300 all in per box. This is a little bit more than what we're seeing on eBay. So for eBay, sealed cases are definitely a little bit higher, but when we hop over to individual boxes, you can get an individual box for $275 all in. So we're starting to see a little bit of variance there of the prices of cases versus boxes in these different sites. And so that's just interesting, and I wanted to point it out. I will say that for this listing here, there's only one left. It looks like they had 10, and they've sold through 9 of them, so they're getting to the bottom there. But there are a few other listings here, like this listing at $269 plus $635 in shipping. You've got this at $280, $280, $285. So we've got quite a bit available. I think we're going to be in this 280 to 300 price range for a while. That's obviously a significant increase from what we've seen. I mean, anytime you see a chart going like that, like, you probably don't want to be buying it at that point. Now, obviously, there's always the chance that some huge growth mechanism happens, and these begin to dry up, and we see even more severe irrational gains. But at the end of the day, I think we're going to plateau here soon, and probably going to see even a little bit of a retrace, maybe down to 270, 280 if we get any sort of market slowdown, because it has been such a dramatic increase. And if you guys look, there is a ton of volume. Obviously, we have a couple sales here this morning, but the 23rd, we had 4 or 5 boxes. The 22nd, we had quite a few boxes. 21st, quite a few boxes. Goes back to the 20th here and then keeps going. But there has been continued volume as it's escalated in these prices, and I think that's natural, and I think that that's a really good sign. We haven't seen the volume completely stop due to the fact that it's gotten to these 280, 290, 300, even $310 price points. Because there's just a lot of demand around this product, right? The first chapter is a mainstay, and obviously a really, really good collector's item. With that being said, I will say the prices for the singles they've lagged even more than I thought they would. I always knew that they would lag, and maybe we just haven't seen this. Realistically, we just have not seen the supply shock yet of these boxes and these cases getting so expensive to where no one's opening them anymore. A lot of people are still opening because maybe they have the boxes from a cheaper price point and they want to open them now. But we have not seen the expected value of the box change since the run up in the sealed cases. We're still sitting around 205 to 210 in expected value for the first chapter, and that basically means that the singles have not raised in price while the sealed has. And I think it's going to take some time for the singles to dry up and really get to the point where we're going to start to see the expected value of the first chapter box correlate with the increased price of the sealed product. Because right now we have not seen the Elsa or any of the cards in the first chapter really begin to dry up. When you look at the Elsa specifically, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 listings at $8.35 essentially, and one of those listings even has 5 available. Now, when you think of the grand scheme of things, 8 or 9 Elsas at this price, that's not that much. But when you think about the amount of volume that the Elsa has, it's just not a lot. There's, if we look for the entire month of October, we're looking at 6 or 7 sales on TCG Player, and obviously there's a whole slew of other sales on eBay, right? So don't think of this as the entire market, but for TCG Player, there's just not a lot of volume on this card. Looking at 7 or 8 for an entire month, so there's just not a lot of liquidity, and this card's going to take time to see an increase or a dry up. You can see there's 29 available. That's quite a few available, and obviously there's a lot available at the floor. And so these prices are going to stay steady for a while. Now, where I think it makes sense for us to really pay attention to and see what where we see some cards start to really bounce back would be the Rapunzel Gifted with Healing, the Maleficent Monstrous Dragon, Belle, Tamatoa, Maui, etc. Some of these cards that are a lot more affordable, that are going to be needed for people's decks, and what do these prices do as packs stop being open because they get so expensive. Looks like the Maui, the cheapest available right now, is $14.50. Nothing crazy compared to where it has been, right in line, starting to creep up maybe a little bit. Someone bought 3 cold foils for $25 a piece. That's a good sale, but at the end of the day, these are remaining where they have been, kind of in that $14 to $15 range. And so I think this is where we're going to start to see some of the headache of first chapter really starting to dry up. Some of these playable cards, they get to $20 a piece for a playset, $25 a piece for a playset for some of these rares. And in the same vein with the Rapunzel, obviously it being a legendary, excuse me guys, there's even less available of Lee's. You saw the Maui listing had over 100 available. The Rapunzel's less than 70. It's already sitting at $45. This card is one as the game continues to grow is gonna dry up pretty fast. Now I will say, once we have DLC Seattle this weekend, and then we're done for this round of Disney Lorcana Challenge events. Now we get into Continentals for both NA and Europe, and then we also get into the Worlds at Disney World at the beginning of next year. But the competitive scene is going to see a little bit of a break here. And so we're obviously going to get the Azurite Sea release. We're still going to have set champs and things like that. But the bigger, Disney-sponsored, sanctioned events are going to be on pause for a little bit. And so that might lead to people selling off some of their cards. Obviously, we might go through a little bit of a lull in terms of popularity or growth because these big tournaments aren't happening apart from, quarterfinals and Worlds, or Continentals and Worlds. But at the end of the day, we've been every, few weeks, it seems like there's been a huge tournament that's been driving a ton of demand, ton of growth, etc. And we are going to start to be in a little bit of a lull as we come into the holiday season and end of the year, just as it relates to these rapid fire events. And so I'm curious how that plays into the market. Do these players who are sitting on, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 decks begin to start to sell them off? I will say I was on Dreamborn. I was looking at a lot of the popular decks, and we're seeing a lot of sub 500, which is good. I know when Bucky Discard was in the meta, and you had the 4 Robin Hoods, and you had the 4 Diablos, and the Buckies, etc. That was like an $800 to $1,000 deck pretty consistently. So it's nice to see the meta has kind of cut that in half. Hope to see that continue to trend down a little bit. Don't want the cards to be free by any means, but it's a lot healthier than it was, which is really, really nice to see. Overall, I think it's, I hope that we continue kind of some very slow growth here for the first chapter, because we don't want this thing to go to $400 or $500 overnight. That is going to lead Ravensburger to reprint even faster if they are going to reprint. It's going to bring the scalpers out. We want some slow organic growth. Once again, few boxes every day. just kind of continuing with the demand and the growth and the popularity of the game. Another box has been purchased since we just refreshed the page there at pretty much 300. So I think overall that's what we have to look forward here in the short term to kind of continue the sustained growth. One thing that has caught my eye is the D23 2022 Elsa. I think this card is a good card. Obviously, the grail of Lorcana, first edition Elsa, one of the most valuable cards within all of Lorcana, apart from maybe the serialized Mickey. They'd kind of be hand in hand, in my opinion, neck and neck in terms of valuability. This may be even more provenance because it has the first edition stamp. But with that being said, this card is I think is a good gauge for the market, and we've been seeing a ton of sales recently. So right now there's 4 on the market in all of eBay. We've got 1 at auction right now that ends in a day. It's an ungraded, authenticity guaranteed for the buyer's asking for a minimum pretty much of 3,800. We have a PSA 10 available for 7,500. We have another PSA 10 available for 15,000, and then we have another PSA 9 available for 6,000. Now, there's only 4 available on the market, right? Not that uncommon for a grail card like this, but what has been interesting, guys, is the sheer amount of sales that have been happening and the increase in value with this card over time. So, this card, as recently as the 18th, so just a week ago, someone bought an $8,000 buy it now, assuming that's a real sale. I would imagine it is based on some of the other marks that we have here. We had an auction end at 7,100 a couple weeks ago on the 12th of October. We had another buy it now at 7,500 at the beginning of October. We had another auction at 7,100, and these are all PSA 10 copies. We had a $7,000 buy it now at the beginning of October. There has been a ton of value as of recently over the last couple months over BGS 9.5s. If you're not familiar with the grading scale, oftentimes a BGS 9.5 is the same subgrades as what equal to a PSA 10. So 9 times out of 10, if you regrade a BGS 9.5 to PSA, it will indeed get a PSA 10. You look at a card like this and you see that it's got 9.5 subgrades across the board that will in fact equal a PSA 10, and this ended at 4,600. So quite a bit of value there for the buyer of that card. You've got another BGS 9.5 down here, if I'm not mistaken. I might have overlooked it, but regardless, there's a lot of value. Oh, here it is. BGS 9.5 for 5,500, right? So continued value there. We did have a PSA 10 go for 8,000. PSA 9 go for almost 4,000 here over just the last couple months. But what I want to point out, guys, is there's just a lot of volume and a lot of sales on the grail side of things. And I think that's kind of indicative of the overall growth of the game and the sentiment of the market. And so while some of the first chapter enchanteds might be slow right now, like the Elsa, I think that if we look to the grails and what people are willing to pay for those cards right now, we're continuing to see growth and we're continuing to see a lot of volume. And so I think it's just important to remember that as we get into maybe what might be a little bit of a lull just due to competitive events and overall, hype around the game, let's say, while we go through this break in between DLC and leading up to Continentals and Worlds. I think it's just important to look at what are some of the bigger cards doing right, as I think that kind of sets the pace for the rest of the hobby. Obviously, not everyone has enough money to buy one of the grill cards or to buy, a sealed case of the first chapter. It's easier to get a box. Not everyone can afford the Enchanted Elsa, right? $1,000 for a shiny piece of cardboard is obviously a lot of money and does not fit the budget for a lot of people. But I think, once again, it's just worth looking at the entire market overall, and kind of seeing where we're at. And I think it's, once again, just going to be important to monitor the playable cards of the first chapter and what do these look like as we continue to dry up and continue to escalate in price for the sealed side of things. There is going to be a lot less supply available on the market. Does the demand stay consistent? Do we see prices go up? Does demand stagnate as prices rise? I think are going to be all important things to watch as we continue to progress here. But we'll have some more content here coming out very soon, guys. I did get my grill card in. I have it. Need to do some sort of video on it. very, very exciting. Lived up to the hype, and I'm ready to display it. So, with that being said, we'll have a video coming out around that very soon. Obviously, like if you're not familiar, it's the most money I've ever spent on a card. It is it's truly one of the girls of Lorcana, and I got a really really good price on it, and so I feel just ecstatic about it. Glad to have it into my collection, and yeah, it was a goal that was a long-term goal, not a goal that I plan on accomplishing this year. Kind of one of those deals where I just threw out an offer that I did not think was going to get accepted, and it did. And I think the card's got potential to even, increase in grade and become one of the grails of Lorcana. So just a really cool purchase. We'll get into more of that soon. But at the end of the day, guys, thank you very much for those of you who were patient with me while I was out of town. I was kind of on a very good pace there of posting really every day, and then I just kind of go dark for 3 or 4 days because you got to travel. So I appreciate everyone who was patient with me, and it's good to be back. So with that being said, guys, we'll be back with some additional content here soon. Bye.